Hello, sociologists. How's it going? Going well? Good. I hope it's going well. Oh, it's going well as well. Oh, that's nice. Thanks, Waldron. So, what are we talking about? Talking about theorists on crime and deviance. And there are sort of 7 people I'm going to talk about really quickly with you. Hydinson, Parsons, Wilson and Kelling, Murray, Relman, Snyder and Cohen. That sound like a bit of a rap then. Here's Hydinson. She's a feminist. She said that women are treated more harshly than men when they break social norms that don't fit into the gender norms that are assigned to them. So women are treated worse for crimes like harming children, but are treated less badly when it comes to other things. For instance, this is called the chivalry factor, that's what I was going to say. And there are 3 outlets controlling women's behaviour. The home, caring for children. So at home, women are expected to care for kids and look after the house, and that expectation controls their behaviour. In public, women fear male violence, is what she said. So, for instance, women will not walk home alone, or are encouraged not to walk home alone, and often won't for fear of being raped. Sexual violence, particularly, that women tend to be afraid of, Hydinson said. And women are kept in place by male supervisors at work. So most bosses, statistically, are men. So that's Hydinson's angle on crime and deviance and about norms and values around women. Parsons, more on gender stuff here, said that boys are more likely to commit crimes because of the ways that they are encouraged, especially in the nuclear family. Boys are encouraged to look at things like these action figures or Hercules or Batman as sort of role models, violent people, essentially. Batman's essentially a vigilante, isn't he? He goes up and beats people up without any legal permission. It's the word I was looking for. Oh, that's not okay, is it? So why is that person a role model? Like a billionaire who spends loads of money on weapons and then uses them on people who have some serious problems, usually mental health problems. It's not all right, basically. Anyway, when I look up girls' toys on Google Images, this is what I come up with, all these girls' toys. Like, you know, look at that first one. It's just a girl in pink working in a kitchen. We socialise our genders through different things. These girls socialised to look pretty and to care and cook and clean, whereas boys socialise to be violent, assertive, dominant human beings. Wilson and Kelling, a new rights sociologists, and said the solution to crime is zero tolerance policing, which is when police treat criminals particularly harshly and without any compassion. So an example of this recently in the UK was the riots and how some people were given over a year in some cases in prison for doing things like stealing a pair of trainers. So that is zero tolerance policing, whereas community policing is working with schools, churches, community groups and building a relationship and trying to enforce the law that way. And they said crime happens in some places because of lack of concern for the community. They called it the broken window theory. And they said the solution is to crack down, just have zero tolerance on any crimes. Some sociologists would say, well, that's a bit crazy. Why are we spending more money on policing than we are on the community? This is a comic out of America where a lot of money is being spent on the police, particularly militarising the police and giving them old equipment from the military. So the police are getting better and better armed, and while schools and job programmes and housing is being really neglected. So some sociologists, some functionalists and Marxists would say that's not right. We should be spending more on the community than on zero tolerance. You can make up your own mind though. That's the joy of sociology, isn't it? Relman suggested that the higher someone's class, the less likely they are to go to prison for their crimes, or for their crimes even to be treated as an offence. So Justin Bieber recently, not that recently, was caught in a drug scandal, whereas if it was somebody who wasn't rich and famous, they would probably be arrested. So it's interesting how those things are treated differently depending on your social status. Here's Cohen. He talks about folk devils and said that some groups were used as folk devils. That's like a scapegoat, people who are blamed for society's problems. And a moral panic was created, in particular around the crimes they're involved in. And here's his idea of a moral panic, that what happens is you've got a deviant act. So a deviant act is an act that goes against the norms and values of society. That is classified as a crime. And then news values, like a news making, so the media, pick up certain things, usually from folk devils. So these are crimes done by folk devils. And then the crime becomes news, and then that news system actually changes how we think of the crimes. And they amplify the problem. Deviance amplification make the problem seem much bigger. There's a panic about it morally. People are like, oh, an example would be hoodies or youth crime. Kids throwing things at cars, for instance, which is really dangerous and bad. But some sociologists would say, well, it's not as bad as corporations not paying hundreds of millions of pounds in tax, because we could use that money to improve our social systems and give these kids better things to do with their time than throwing bottles at passing taxis, which happened to me once whilst I was in the back of a taxi. It was quite terrifying. And that moral panic changes how we think of crime, and it changes how we define crime and how we enforce and punish crime. And then it feeds into this loop. So that's Cohen's idea of a moral panic. Snyder said businesses benefit in our legal system as the state is often reluctant to pass laws. This was just what I was talking about, because we're reluctant to challenge businesses in the fear that we'll lose their business. So corporations get away with things such as tax evasion. So corporate crime, Snyder would say, is treated much less severely than street crime. Street crime when individuals do it, corporations when whole businesses do it, and white-collar crime when people who work in the corporations steal money from the corporation. That's white-collar crime. Street crime is also called blue-collar crime sometimes. And finally, Gilroy, who said that moral panics in America are created particularly around black crime. So that would link with Cohen, because young black people in America are very much a folk devil, and it justifies tougher policing, harassment and racist policing of an ethnic minority. So Gilroy was looking very much at the link between race and crime. That's what I was going to talk about. How long did it take? It took 7 minutes and 24 seconds. I don't think that's bad. You can pause it, obviously, and go back and see what I said if it didn't make sense. Write comments if you have questions. I hope you have a beautiful day. It's sunny outside. If you'd like to subscribe, do. Subscribe, it'll be fun. Or don't. That's also your choice, isn't it? Bye.